Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, our guest list just continues to blow me away. And we just keep raising the bar over and over and over again. Folks, check it out. This guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her a proper one anyways, right? So folks, check it out. She's the founder of the Unstoppable Life Mastermind. She's the host of the Amberly Lago Show. She's an international speaker and TEDx speaker. She is the host of the Unstoppable Success Summit. Folks, my good buddy, two-time author, Amberly Lago. How we doing, Amberly?
Oh, I'm so excited to finally get to see you and your beautiful studio in person. This has been a long time coming. So just grateful to be here. And I love that your son, I asked him how he was doing, and he said unstoppable. I was like, oh, yeah.
That's right.
Love it.
That's right. That's how you know it's meant to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have a good time. First hit of the day right there, right? So awesome. E, you continue to make your mom and I look good, baby. So bonus points for you, okay? All right. So Amberly, I want to get right into it because you got a lot going on, especially even stuff in 2025, and I'm so excited to talk through those. But you have there's a quote on your Instagram that's pinned to your grid that I freaking love, and I read it often, all right? I read it often. It says, joy is possible even in the hard moments. So my take on that is joy is a choice. All right. Now, because this kind of leads into the book that's coming out in 2025. So talk about that. Let's get what does that mean to you, and how can folks use that?
Well, I do think joy is a choice, and it's possible even through an authentic catastrophe, if I can talk. On the way here, I was driving and I saw a Dairy Queen. And
stop it.
I know, a Dairy Queen. And you know what it reminded me of? It was the first time when I was a little kid and I ever kind of experienced joy. I didn't even know what that was at the time, but football's big in Texas. And I don't know why my mom would let me do this, but I would go after to the Dairy Queen with all the people from the band and some of the cheerleaders and football players. And I was little. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 7. And I would just start dancing. They'd put music in the jukebox would be playing, and they'd put me on a tabletop and I would dance. And it just brought so much joy. But it wasn't just because I was dancing, but I could see people's eyes light up and they were smiling and they would start clapping to the music and dancing themselves. And I thought, I want to do this. I want to feel like this all the time. And so going through some, we all go through challenges. Our child, well, I don't know, maybe Ethan's childhood is perfect, but rarely, is your childhood perfect. And I had a lot going on. My parents got divorced, and then I was sexually abused by my stepfather. And I remember consciously, I wanted to have joy despite the pain that I was going through. And so I made an effort to do things that made me feel good, that brought joy. And so that's when I got into dancing and became an athlete and started running. And so I think that it is a choice. And now not being an entrepreneur is sometimes tough. It can be hard. But on top of it, I was diagnosed with an incurable nerve disease called complex regional pain syndrome. And it's really been a choice. I could sit there and feel sorry for myself and think of all the bad things or the things that I'm not able to do, or I can focus on the good. And I feel like when we hunt for the good gets better. We are able to find joy. And then recently, I will share something that we have. Our dog passed away kind of unexpectedly. I mean, she was a little older, and she was with me through surgeries, and she was a part of the family. And I could not stop crying. I mean, I could not stop crying. And I thought, well, I've got to do something that is going to bring me joy. Not that I was trying to stuff down the feelings. I wanted to acknowledge it, but then, well, what can I do to get through this? And so here we're coming on, one of my favorite holidays, Christmas. And I thought, I am going to decorate the Christmas tree. So I put the Christmas tree up earlier than I've ever put it up. And then I thought, even if I'm crying while I'm putting the Christmas tree up, at least it is sparking some joy. Then I thought, I just need to go out and smile at someone. I need to see them smile back at me. And I don't think we're meant to do hard things alone. And so I purposely went to Home Goods and I thought, I am going to do some joy spotting. Like everywhere I go, I want to just see some joy. And when I walked into Home Goods, the first thing I saw was a sign that said joy. And I was like, okay, that's a God wink right there. And so
they spotted it.
Yeah. And then I would just smile at people and it just brought joy just to see them smile back. I just needed to smile. I just needed to, get out. And so I think that, we can create more joy, whether it is being of service, getting out there and smiling at somebody, practicing gratitude, moving your body moves your mood. And so there are times when I don't really feel like moving or I'm in a lot of pain, but I know that if I move, that I am going to feel better, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, I'm going to feel better.
Absolutely. I heard from the pulpit not long ago, very recently, and I love it, that gratefulness and entitlement cannot coexist. Oh, absolutely. Right. So, and basically what I heard when you were talking right there was that like you find what you're looking for. You know what I mean? So if you're looking for joy, you'll find it. How would you it's all right. So I remember years ago when I can't remember what it was, but it was time to get a new car. So now all of a sudden you got to pick out what car I'm looking for. And once I figured, it was kind of like when I like my favorite, I got a Jeep. I love my Jeep. It's my favorite car. It's all I've ever wanted. And we're about to get another one. That's going to be his first car when he turns 16. It'll be Jeep. But, we're almost there, righty? We're almost there. But
I'm a big fan of Jeeps too.
Oh gosh, they're so much fun. They're so much fun.
I had a CJ7, a CJ5, and so much fun.
That's right. When you before I was actually thinking about buying a Jeep, I didn't notice them on the road. And then all of a sudden when I started subconsciously, I just started to notice them all over the place. And it's, again, you see what you're looking for, you usually find, right? So joy is a choice. And, but Amberly, for me, when all the change was happening with my wife and I, even though you're aware of what you should be doing, it's still hard to do it day in and day out, over and over and over again, when maybe your habits are seeing dark things or bad things or non-joyous things. What are some of the ways that you apply, the knowledge that you're getting, or that you're applying whatever it is that you're working for day in and day out, like finding joy?
Well, I think it's practice, and I have a gratitude practice, and I say practice because it does take practice, and I think it takes accountability as well. And so I have a group of ladies, we call ourselves the God Squad, and we actually text each other every single day what we're grateful for. And I think the key is to know, everybody's different, but to know what sparks joy in your life. And, here I had survived this horrific motorcycle accident, had 34 surgeries to save my leg from amputation. And I survived all of that only to be slowly killing myself, just driving myself into the ground. I used to pride myself on thinking, I've got grit. When you've got grit, there is no quit. And then I was like, I had a lot of misconceptions about grit. And what I realized is I could not have joy in my life if I was just constantly grinding and just gritting it out. I was missing a key component. I mean, I mistook health scares for heroic acts, sacrifice for success, fear for function, stubbornness for strength. And I convinced myself that this was grit and this was good. And what I learned is grit without connection is just resistance. And it's nearly impossible to spark joy. And, did I get a little?
Oh, yeah, you're going to be getting a lot of them today. I owe you about 4 right now. I'm backlogging here. I keep receipts.
Then I realized grit with connection is where you find resilience. It's where you're able to find joy and build upon the joy. But I was, you talked about habits. I was letting the things that I call like my non-negotiables, I was letting them slip. Like I'd stopped doing my reading in the morning. I stopped my gratitude practice. I got sober in 2016. I stopped going to meetings as much.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started, I went from being this elite athlete to full-blown alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the grace of God, I got sober. I was self-medicating. It wasn't like I was going to the bars and living it up. And I was just trying to get out of pain, and none of the medical treatments that I had done were working. And I discovered, wine kind of helps numb out this pain, and it worked until it
does.
didn't.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You built. So did you build first of all, you build a tolerance to those things, and so you're constantly having to add more to accomplish the same result.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not easy, because now it's like twice the pain. The pain that you were trying to numb is there, and then it hurts coming off those things.
Oh, it was a vicious cycle. I was, drinking to try to numb out the pain, but alcohol is an inflammatory. So the pain would come back with a vengeance, and I would just get as much as I could during the day done, and then just start knocking them back.
Mm-hmm.
And the gig was up. I thought I was like hiding it, and it was very obvious that I was not hiding it from anyone. I mean, it took some skill. My husband is retired now, but he was lieutenant commander with a highway patrol. So to sneak your drinking.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you
for your service. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I admire about you most, is we all take a lot of pride in our appearances. Okay. Like it's kind of like the packaging, that, of what it is. And I remember when I was trying to figure out who Nick Hyder was after professional baseball, I was like, man, it dawned on me one day when I looked in the mirror and I saw the baseball player, and I'm like, but I don't play baseball anymore. So I was like, if I see the same person, I've got to give everybody a shot to see me different. So I did it. I changed my whole entire appearance, almost polar opposite from what I was as an athlete, just so people would say he's different, right? So I wanted to give people a chance. But with the motorcycle accident, it's like you're wearing beautiful red pants today.
Wow.
However, you don't hide the scars that the injury left. As a matter of fact, they are a trophy for you, because you've overcame those, and like it's something that a lot of insecure people might try to hide.
I did for a while.
Okay, I want to talk about that, because like that is huge. I admire that so much about you.
Well, thank you. I was, being an athlete, professional dancer, athlete. My nickname used to be Legs in the gym. Like,
my gosh.
I mean, I would lift with the men, the bodybuilders,
yep,
and keep up with them. So to have this motorcycle accident and be completely scarred from the hip down, my ankles fused. I hated my leg. I hated myself. I had so much shame.
Yeah.
And in fact, the pain had gotten so bad and nothing was working for the pain. And so I went into my doctor and I said, Dr. Wiss, I appreciate you doing 34 surgeries to save this leg, but we need to go ahead and cut it off. And he's like, well, we can't do that. And I'm like, no, it's giving me too much pain. I just want to move on. He goes, well, you have complex regional pain syndrome. If you amputate, it could make it worse. It could spread. And then he did something that changed my life. It changed everything. He sat in front of me and he put my leg on his lap. And usually, they'd put your leg up on the table or something, but he looked at my leg like it was a masterpiece. And I just started crying in that moment. And I thought, wow, if he can look at my leg that way, maybe I can learn to look at it that way as
perspective.
Well. It just shifted my perspective, and it really got me into acceptance, for accepting all the scars and looking at them as like, wow, look at how the body can heal. Look how amazing and strong the human spirit is. And I think that really any transformation starts with acceptance and getting radically honest with yourself.
Yeah, man, I couldn't have said it any better. I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. That kind of leads us into the book that's coming out February 11th. Of 2025. All right. So when we're shooting this episode today, it is indeed the Christmas season. We're just a couple weeks out from the Christmas holiday, and this episode is going to drop. So everybody listening, it's Christmas Eve. It's December 24th. All right. So, and you are festive with your pants today, I might add.
In the Christmas spirit.
That's right.
In the Christmas spirit. Yeah.
So Merry Christmas, everybody. Right. Merry Christmas. But like, the one thing that kind of triggers as soon as Christmas is over, then this New Year's happens, and then resolutions, new goals for the new year, and so on and so forth, right? So, first of all, folks, if can they pre-order your book right now?
Yes, and actually, this is a little bit different than what I did. My first book, I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. I'm still learning. But with this one, I actually put together bonuses. So when you pre-order, you can get a free downloadable companion book. And I wrote the companion book out. My husband was like, I thought you finished writing your book. I'm like, well, now I'm doing a companion book.
All right.
Yes. So there are different gifts if you just go to my website.
So the book, right, is called Joy Through the Journey. And golly, that's a song, that's a concert tour, that's everything. That's a movie. Like, that title is strong. That's a very strong title. Joy Through the Journey.
I'll tell you what, I'm a little nervous about. I mean, I think it's great when authors can go, oh, this is the best book. This is amazing. Go buy it. I'm like, was waking up with my heart pounding and sweating because I am so real and raw in this book. That when I was reading it in, like, I just sent the final edits a few days ago. Got it. And I'm reading it going, oh my goodness, I am sharing stuff that I don't even know if my husband realizes. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like I'm standing in the middle of the street naked. But my hope is that it will really help others to, no matter what they're going through, to really embrace the present moment and shift their mindset and spark joy.
You are like, so she actually, a lady said something, literally standing over her daughter's casket at a funeral that changed it was just one of the most powerful things I've ever heard of. And she actually she passed away recently this year. And, she was a person who was just one of those strong, amazing people that, lives a life raising families that not a lot of people know of them outside of their circles and everything else. But it was such a powerful thing. And I feel like what I'm hearing from you the most is like you embrace all the challenges and the tough things that come along because of the gifts that you get on the other side of those, right? That growth that happens, the lessons and everything else. But she said she was standing over her daughter's casket, who is one of my wife's best friends. And she said, with all the courage in the world, she sat up there and she said, I want to thank my Jesus. She said, I lost my husband years ago suddenly, and I lost my daughter suddenly. And I want to thank Jesus for having enough trust in me to handle my suddenlies.
You're making me cry.
I told you there's some Kleenexes over there. But it's like, at the end of the day, you got two choices to make when something bad happens. Why is this happening to me? Or why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Right? And that perspective is so important because, at the end of the day, something can cripple you, or it's like pressure doesn't actually exist. I think we all create it. But pressure, William Arthur Ward said, pressure causes the pressure that will break some men will cause some men to break records. It's all in how you handle that pressure, right?
Yeah.
So you were describing pressure right in the book. Like, people that know me say that, like, I'm constantly creating ways to put pressure on myself so that I can thrive, right?
Do you think that that's the athlete? Because the athlete in you, like,
to some degree, for sure.
Yeah,
right?
I think so, for sure. I actually do better. I don't want to say better under pressure, but I do create pressure because
Absolutely.
it makes me go.
A buddy of mine that's Antoine Robinson, one of my media partners, he says, dude, you are constantly packaging pressure. And I was like, what does that mean? He goes, think about it. Not only are you creating it, but you're finding ways to package the journey that you created to bust through and grow. And I was like, man, that's really good. I was like, we're going to do something with that in 2025 for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to expand on that.
Oh, I was telling you that I said, I must be crazy to be launching a book and doing my annual event at the same time.
The event's big.
It's a lot doing an event.
Absolutely. So just for fun, let's first of all, let's tell people about the event. The event's happening in April 2025. It's the Unstoppable Success Summit.
Yeah.
All right. When does pre-order registration go? But more importantly, like, who needs to be there? What's the event about?
It is for entrepreneurs. This year we have, do you know who Trent Shelton is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Trent's going to be speaking. Renee Rodriguez. Do you know Renee?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love
Renee's great.
Leah Valencia Key.
Wow.
Tamara Andres and Brooke Hemingway. And then I have a few of the Unstoppable mastermind members that are going to take the stage too. And they're going to give a 5-minute talk and talk about pressure. It's a lot harder to do a 5-minute talk than it is a 45-minute talk, but it's really to not just go and get motivation. It's to make collaborations, build relationships. It's intimate on purpose. So you do have time to do podcast swaps. I even have a little setup so people can actually record at the summit so
incredible.
Yeah, I really, and it's just we're a group of passionate go-getters, trailblazers can come together. And I feel like, somebody said something the other day I loved. Your speed, or because I've always heard proximity is power, but it was something they said something about your level of success depends on your relationships, or you go faster with the right relationships. Which I agree. I've totally messed up that quote, by the way, but I think it matters. People ask me a lot, like, how did you get on that podcast, or how did you get on that stage? I'm like, get in the room, build the relationships.
That's right. Well, you're a master of the application, right? So my big thing is, and we use church every Sunday as kind of like an example. All right. So I went to a Christian university, and as a young man, sowing his oats, so you sow your oats. That's it. I'm showing some age there. But as an old man, kind of finding my path, you rebel a little bit. Okay. So at the university I went to, it was mandatory in the curriculum that you go to chapel 3 times a week. And that's a part of, if you don't, there's a penalty for not doing so, right? So, and it bothered me that not that we were forced to go, but like a lot of the folks in there, I felt a lot of, I was judging, and I shouldn't have done that, first of all, but I felt like it was hypocritical for those folks that were in there. Dude, I mean, they found it every Tuesday and Wednesday, but when you saw them out later, I was like, that's not the same person.
Yeah.
So, and I struggled with that for a very long time. And now, when we go to church, so for us, Monday through Saturday is the tank's got to be empty at the end of Saturday. You got to burn it all. And then Sundays when we go to refill the tank. So we hear the sermon. We go there for that sermon. That's God speaking to us through somebody that has been called to deliver a message, right? So his first thing that happens when we first get in the car is, Ethan, what'd you get out of that message, and how are you going to use it in your life this week? My wife does the same thing, and then I tell them what I learned, right?
Oh,
so we get
that.
3 different perspectives. But the catch is like, I don't want going to church to turn into what we do on Sundays. Mm-hmm. It's just another meaningless thing that we do in the 365 times a year in a 7-day week stretch.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's kind of like people go to your events and then don't take action. Mm-hmm. Right? It happens. So I want you to speak to those folks right now. Like, you got that unbelievable lineup, and there's going to be even more amazing people in the crowd. Like, what should they be doing how can they apply what they're going to learn at an event like that, a spectacular event like that, to immediately make an impact on their life?
Well, I think like I mentioned before, accountability, find somebody. If Hire a coach. I have a sponsor. I have a coach. I have a therapist. I have a mentor. Like I need it all, you know? I got a little
That's
sound
right.
effect there.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But, and I actually, I had somebody that was in my mastermind and I had to have a talk with her. I was like, look, you can't be in the mastermind if you're not going to take action.
Let's go.
I was like, I'm not just doing this to take money. Like you have to take action. If I'm giving you all the things, this is what you need to do in order to start your podcast and you're not doing it, you're making excuses, then I'm sorry, you can't be in the mastermind. I think it's so important to set a date. If I don't have it written down or I don't have a date that it needs to be done, then it won't get done.
That's right.
It's like even I told you I had the name of my book on a sticky note for like 2 years on my computer. And it wasn't until I had a date. And if I didn't have that manuscript on that date turned in, well, then I wasn't going to get, it wouldn't publish.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get my, money.
That's right.
I'm like, so you got set a date.
Yeah. It's kind of like the people that, and honestly, the folks that accomplish their goals the most, the folks that are best at crushing those goals are usually the best goal setters, right? So it's something that was realistic, but more importantly, it had a deadline, right?
A deadline, and you stick to it.
Absolutely.
And I was, when we were talking before we started recording, I said, oh yeah, I started the Unstoppable, my first event. I said, I remember when I launched it, I said, I had a date. March 16th, 2020, the day the world shut down, and my husband was like, you're seriously going to start something called Unstoppable when the world just stopped? And I'm like, yep, I sure am. And
I love
it. Still going. But if I didn't have that date, I would have probably been, I'll do it another time. But, set a date and stick to it.
And I was always told too, the day that my wife and I recommitted our life to Christ, we got married the same day, as a matter of fact, in church. Pastor met us on the, it was weird. We still don't know how he beat us down the aisle because, he was behind us when we started walking. But somehow he met us at the door at the end of the sanctuary and he said, guys, hugged us, congratulations. He said, there's one more thing, and that is there's two sides of this story, all right? So you made the biggest and best decision of your lives today. The dark side's not happy, so it's going to do everything it can to distract you in your journey and see if it can bring you back.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, so when you're getting close to accomplishing what it is, that's usually when the things are going to go wrong.
The resistance is real. Oh my goodness. Like the last Unstoppable Success Summit, my husband's super healthy. He had to have surgery. He had gallstones and he had to have his gallbladder taken out. So it was supposed to be kind of an in and out surgery.
Supposed to be.
Of course, he had complications, and I'm supposed to leave like the next day to go to fly out to go to the set up for the event. Yeah. And the doctor comes out. I was like, wow, this is a long surgery. Why is it taking 5 hours to do, that this should have been like maybe an hour. And she said, I'm so sorry. We have to go back in. We had some complications. So he's going to have to go back in surgery. And I thought, oh my gosh, here I've been planning this event all year. And the ladies of the mastermind were amazing. They're like, you know what? You stay home. We'll run the event for you. Wow. That's the kind of women they are. And then my husband actually says, this is called the Unstoppable event. You can't stop now. And so my mom took care of him while he went in for surgery. But I was like, talk about resistance. And you know what? It was just like, there were a lot of all the speakers they were not scared to talk about God and Jesus in their life. And I swear you could feel the Holy Spirit in the room. It was like magical. Yeah. And I felt like everything was going against me to try to stop me from having that event, Absolutely. And that resistance is real. And so I always feel like when I'm getting some resistance, that this must be important. This must be a message that needs to be heard.
Perspective, right? Yeah. So again, when that resistance happens, and it comes in all like forms, shapes, and sizes, right? The craziest things that you would think could happen. And that's how you know you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because man, what's on the other side is what you've been chasing the whole time, right? So think about how much better that event came. Just like you said, we could feel the spirit in there during that thing, and it wouldn't have happened had you not gone through that. It wouldn't have been as good.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely incredible, man. So gratitude cannot exist, or gratitude and entitlement cannot coexist, right? So you can't be grateful for something you're entitled to.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Florida last week. We had a cold front come through. I flew out of the snow. It was like 65 degrees there. I'm running around with shorts and T-shirts, and they're all walking around with big old jackets.
Yeah.
And I asked them, I was like, you guys are entitled to that warm weather? Or, I bet you're going to be grateful for it when it comes back.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
That's funny. That reminds me, in California when it's like 60, people are wearing their ski jackets. You know?
That's right. That's right. Well, so this event's not the first one. What year is this one? How many have you done so far?
Oh gosh, this is the fourth one.
Fourth one. So obviously, everyone you learn and you think, all right, so cool. We did that. Now we want to accomplish X the next time, right?
I've learned so much.
Awesome.
I've made a lot of mistakes, and I will tell you one of them. Like, I didn't realize it was a smaller event. Our very first one was a smaller event. I had told my assistant, I said, just coffee in the morning, and then that's it. We're not going to be refilling the coffee all day. Well, there was a miscommunication, and it was a small event, and like $3,000 later in coffee. I was like,
what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was like $120 a gallon for coffee.
Good grief.
Yeah. Also, another miscommunication. The room block.
Mm-hmm.
I'd said only 15 rooms for the speakers that are coming in. I'm just going to do a room block for the speakers. And so there were 25 rooms. So I thought, okay, I got the 15 rooms filled, and last minute, I'm like, oh no, I have 10 extra rooms. So 10 times 3 that I had to fill.
Mm-hmm.
And I had until noon the following day. I called so many people. I got all those rooms filled. I'm like, hey, I will give you a free ticket to my event, but you have to come stay in the hotel.
That's right.
And got them all booked, but I've learned a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so for all those folks that are wanting to do something they've never done before, like throw an event, write a book, whatever it may be, aside from just getting started, what advice would you have for them today on how to prepare themselves for the best, or just to embrace the speed bumps along the way?
Have somebody that has gone before you and achieved what you want to achieve, and ask questions. Like, hire them to mentor you or to coach you, or, go to somebody who has had a lot of success with and done a lot of events, so you don't. And that's another reason why I started the mastermind, is so I could help other women. I mean, I've messed up. I've lost a lot of money. And actually just recently, I hired somebody that was supposed to be helping me with a book launch, and took the money and ran.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Can you believe that?
No.
So I'm like, okay, that resistance we talked about, but
I'll find them. I'll get them.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I can't even focus on that. I just got to focus on what's ahead, and it might be harder, but it'll be worth it.
The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more.
Do you have something that I absolutely love? You call it the PACER method. Talk to me about the PACER method.
Well, I came up with the PACER method because actually it was one night sitting having dinner, and my husband looks at me. I had my leg propped up on the table, and I guess I was in a lot of pain, but I guess I must have looked pretty bad, pretty rough. And he said, you really need to pace yourself. And as an entrepreneur, I was offended. I don't want to pace myself. I like to go full speed. I like to go fast. But what I realized is there are things that I do every single day. And if I could focus on not so much gritting it out and going fast all the time, but slow down around the curves and really taking things in stride, really focusing on what's going to make me healthy, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, then you can be resilient. And so pacer stand, and I thought about, well, these are all the things that I do every day to make sure that I can get through hard things, that I can thrive, that I don't want to just survive. I don't want to be in fight or flight. I want to thrive, especially let's thrive in 2025.
That's right.
And, but the P in pacer stands for perspective. And the quickest and easiest way to shift your perspective is to focus on what you're grateful for, because gratitude is alchemy. It really turns what you don't have into what you do have, and what you can't do into what you can do.
Absolutely.
You know, and the A is for acceptance. And I encourage, you know, if you're listening, what's one thing that you can accept today? Because once we are in acceptance for who we are, where we are on our journey, then we can take action steps with grit. And it also connects us to the community that we're meant to connect with. And the C is for community. And I think that's probably the most powerful part of Pacer. Just knowing that you don't have to do it alone. For so long, I thought nobody understands what I'm going through. I remember, like, when I got sober, I could not stay sober if I didn't have my community of sober brothers and sober sisters. I, don't want to do the entrepreneurial journey alone. I think it's so much more fun when we get to do it together and learn from each other. So community allows you to move forward, and have endurance is the next part of Pacer. And I really think that is asking yourself the right questions. It's when you're tired or on the verge of burnout, it's remembering why you even started. It's when I told you, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous about this book. It's raw and real, but why did I write it? It's for the person who feels like, maybe with a health diagnosis, or maybe their never ending to-do list, to show them that they can have joy. But boy, it does take endurance. And then the last part was the hardest part for me to learn, and it's for rest. I don't know if you were taught this, being an athlete, I was taught resting is for quitters,
Right.
or a dancer, if you're going to rest, then your understudy will just take over for you. And it took me, I was in the hospital like 8 times in 1 year from an infection. And finally the doctor said, you can't keep coming back here. Like, what is going on? In the middle of writing this book, and I guess I'm stubborn, and I've learned this lesson over and over and over. The very beginning of the book, I just talk about how I really embarrassed myself. I went on an Instagram Live. So in one day, I had 3 keynotes. They were virtual. So 3 keynotes I was doing.
That's a day in itself.
It was. And 3 keynotes, the energy that it takes, especially virtually. I get more energy when I'm in person.
No doubt.
I love it. And then I had a live. I was going on with a client, helping her promote her book. I was going live on Instagram. I had an infection, so I go to the urgent care, and she said, this is really bad. I would like to admit you to the hospital for IV antibiotics. There's only, we could try the strongest antibiotic we have, and I'll give you 10 days, but I really suggest you just go to the hospital. I was like, oh, I'll take the antibiotics. Give them to me. I got a lot to do. I went, got my antibiotic, didn't have time to eat, took them on an empty stomach. And I was just, the adrenaline kicked in. I gave the keynotes. I, got through those, felt like I did good with those. And I had one more thing to do. By the time I got to the live, my body was literally shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brain was not working properly. And it was like I could see myself screwing up big time, and I was live. And I finished early. I didn't even make it to the bed. I collapsed on the sofa, woke up the next day to so many people saying, Amberly, what's wrong with you? Like, that was not you.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally crashing. And I thought, I can't keep doing this. I'm literally killing myself. And so the beginning of my book, I talk about this. And like, I've worked so hard and to just destroy my brand, my reputation, because I'm not taking care of myself. And a friend of mine told me something that really hit home. She said, you know what? Your impact is only as strong as you are healthy. And so what are your non-negotiables? Stick to those. Like, why was it so hard to give myself some compassion and take care of myself, give myself a little bit of grace, show myself some, self-care, self-love? And so it was a wake-up call for me.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, what are my non-negotiables? Like, prayer in the morning. The first thing I do is I drop to my knees and I pray, because it reminds me on my knees how small I am and how big my God is in my life. And doing my gut health stuff, practicing my gratitude, reaching out to my God squad, moving my body however I can, So whatever your non-negotiables are, because when I let those slip, then everything starts crashing down, crumbling down.
Mm-hmm. As there's so much, like I've got a sheet full of notes over here as you've been talking. Like I'm taking it all in, because I like to unpack everything, because that's where like really getting under the surface and the value is. So first of all, I want to go back just a moment, because you were talking about relationships and getting in the room. Okay. Like again, for like coming from the family that I come from, I have a lot of very powerful phone numbers in my phone book. Okay. But they're only phone numbers if I can't figure out how to use them. Right. So even then, just getting in the room, that's just a part of it. How do you stay in the room, first of all, is something that is incredibly important. But then two, how do you make that room yours? How do you end up being an owner of that room, not just a visitor or a fly on the wall? How do you become somebody that's their room? You know what I mean? And that's something that you've really been able to master. And again, it's that application. It's like that going to church, hearing the message from the pulpit, and then just going about your life and nothing changes.
Yeah.
So when folks get in the room, like the room they're coming to in April of 2025, like once they're in that room, how do they make that room theirs? What's the first steps to do that? Like, how do you what's the framework look like to work those relationships? Just like you work on your relationship with your husband, I work on my relationship with my wife. I work on my relationship with my son over there, like every day, or else they just stay the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing to do is ask, what can you give instead of what can you take? How can you be the most valuable person in the room? I love connecting people. So if I'm doing a podcast interview, I'm like, hey, do you know this person? Well, you got to know this person. And I love connecting people. But I think so often, for instance, I had somebody say, wow, they'll called me up and they're like, hey, Amberly, how you doing? I saw you were back in a wheelchair, just checking on you. And by the way, can you introduce me to Ed Milet and Jamie Kern-Lima? Because I want to have them on my podcast. And I was like, these are relationships that I have worked on building those relationships for years.
They might as well ask you for your money. They might as well ask you worked hard for your money. You worked hard for those relationships.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not going to pimp those people out. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
I'm like, I value those relationships so much. And I remember when I first met Trent Shelton, I shared the stage with him at an event. And I had a business question that I needed to ask him. And he had given me his phone number. And my husband was like, you just texted Trent Shelton? Like, he's a former NFL player. And I was like, Well, yeah, but it was a personal question and his name was in it and he saved me $20,000.
Mm.
And I never abused that phone number and I never messaged him saying, "Can I pick your brain?"
That's right. Well, that's the difference. And Tim Corbin is the head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodore baseball team, one of the greatest coaches in the history of college sports. And when you get in a room with a guy like that, there's so much. Like, I want to know. I ask him every time I see him, but we're always trying to provide value too. But like, that guy does more in a 24-hour period than anybody I've ever seen. And like, he never, like, not one time has an email gone out to him or even a text message without a response in just an hour or two. Never. Like, in this,
Wow.
and he don't have to do that. And I'm just, how many of those does he get a day? You never hear anything about that. But the difference is what I'm hearing you say is what you just said. So instead of going there to take, you're going there to figure out how to give.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the catch, right? So those people have everything, all the knowledge that you want or need. But at the end of the day, when you go in there trying to figure out how do you give some of that back, that's how you end up getting it, right?
It is. It's so true. It's so true. I was speaking at Candy Valentino's event.
She's so awesome.
I love her.
Good
She is
gracious.
brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And a sweetheart. I mean, good people. And
Badass. She's just a badass.
yeah, she is. But we, after there was somebody who came up and started talking to me and said, "When is your next event?" And I said, "Oh, I'll be in Atlanta next week." And she goes, "Oh, I live in Atlanta. Do you need help with anything?" And she told me later, she never would usually ask, "You need help?" And I said, "Actually, I would love your help." Yeah.
That's right.
I was like, "How about I get you a VIP ticket and then you can come help me, hang out with me?" Well, she not only helped me, she got video of my book signing. She even did recorded my talk and had AI print it all out for me.
Let's go.
She was amazing. From that relationship, and all it was her asking, "Do you need any help?" I had her as a guest speaker for my event last year. I've referred business to her. And then I was a guest speaker at one of her events. And so it was all just like, how you want help?
That's it.
And I'm like, yeah. And
we all need help to some degree.
yeah. And I was like, yeah, I do need help.
I freaking love that. See?
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com.
Folks, it's all right there for you. You talked about, slowing down a little bit. Like, all right, well, guess what? As an athlete, we always had an off season.
Mm-hmm.
We always had an off season. And the whole point of the off season was to grow.
Yeah.
Right? It was to grow. So as an entrepreneur, that's the hardest thing is, there is no off season in life, but you can create them, So like, since my son is a young and budding athlete, I use his off season as like, so I still get to have that baseball off season. Like, so right now it's in December. It's not baseball season. It's separation season at my house. Right. So, now we do that all the time, but definitely it's extremely intentional. From like October, November up until like January, February. It's like, this is when we're like, we really grow physically and spiritually, because that's also when we have the most time, because we're not on the ball field all the time with those games and everything else.
Yeah.
So,
I'm actually taking some time off around Christmas, which is, in the past I'd be like, okay, I'm taking Christmas Day off.
You've said it for 10 years and just never done it yet.
Yeah.
Me too. That's right.
And I did. And I have this assistant who is awesome, and she actually blocked off, like, she's helping me. She has in my calendar every morning from 5 to 7, that's my time. That's when I pray, work out, do my gratitude practice, actually maybe even have some coffee. maybe even have a little breakfast,
That's right.
if I'm not fasting. Yeah, it really helps.
Absolutely.
If I don't block it out or
Hmm.
if I don't have it written down, then I don't do it. So,
And it's funny too, especially like the young entrepreneurs, they'll try to do that at like noon. I'm going to go for some me time. I'm like, dude, that's prime time helping people hours. Like, you know what I mean? You got to control your time better than that. Ethan's been time blocking for a few years.
yeah.
Because that was, once we learned that skill, it changed everything.
He didn't look too happy about that, though. Do you like that?
You like time blocking? We'll
Yeah.
see. No, he does. He's good about it. Every night sends us what we call his power list before he goes to bed.
That's awesome.
With all his critical tasks, when he's going to be doing them the next day, and then the results that he's chasing, and then he reads 20 pages of a book that every single night. Right now he's on the Bible, but he's read Rich Dad Poor Dad. He's read Brad's book. He's read Dan Martell's book. He's read David Meltzer's book. He's read them all. Like
well, I'm gonna send you joy through the journey.
Let's go. That's right. Can I borrow it? Maybe he'll let me read it too when he's done.
That's awesome, though.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's so this is where I was going next, right? So I believe it's the Navy SEALs. They partner you with what they call swim buddy. All right. So, and this is the beautiful thing about parenting. I think the greatest gift God gives us outside of Jesus is a child. And so I never would have learned this, or at least I wouldn't have learned it in the way that I did without being a dad, right? So for me, he's one of my swim buddies, right? So keeping him accountable is how I learn a lot of my lessons, right? So a lot of people, a lot of folks, when they go to get in that room, they go to get something rather than the gift is what you end up giving. And that's the lessons that you learn from the gifts that you give others, right?
Yeah.
So, and I kind of think that's what the Navy SEALs are talking about, because the swim buddy is like, if that guy quits, you're out. Right. So if he quits, you're out. So it's not, he's there for you. No. You're there for him. Like, so you can't be worried about your own problems if you're focused on somebody else. So Troy McQuaig told me one time, he said, make your purpose greater than your problems. Right. And it'll always outweigh that. So as a dad, it changed me because I'm so worried about, not worried about, but I'm so focused on helping him do those things that like, well, I'm doing them too. And the lessons that I learn helping him overcome those things, I'm like, oh man, I had that same problem. And those are the amazing gifts that we get. Right. And that's kind of, you're just a walking example of that. Like to a T, man.
Well, thank you. I think that when you can be of service, when you have that purpose, and you can put your focus on others, it really pulls you through dark times. I mean, I remember being in the hospital and I was like, oh, well, I don't know if today's the day they're going to amputate my leg. And I was in so much pain.
I can't imagine.
I could still be of service. And people like, how could you be of service when you were stuck in a hospital bed? I was still writing out nutrition plans for clients. I was giving them workouts. I was setting up trainers with clients, still keeping my team going. And then the nurses, when they found out that I was in the fitness industry, they would come in and say, hey, what can I do to get a better booty? Like I was giving them exercise tips. And then I
need those too.
I need them. I need to like follow that advice. Yeah. And I even had a chair like in the corner, and there was like a curtain. The nurses would come in and plop themselves down, pull that curtain over, and just sometimes cry to me. They just needed to be heard. Mm-hmm. They just would tell me their problems, and I would just listen, maybe offer some suggestions. But that took me out of that victim mentality. Mm-hmm. And it pulled me through so much darkness and so much pain. And in sobriety, there's a saying that you get to keep what you give away. So as long as I can help another alcoholic, then I get to stay sober.
That's all right. That's way better than the way I described it a minute ago. That's awesome. All right, so say that again. That's huge. What you just said right there. That's like, hold on. There we go. Now, we had to go. So that is massive. Say that again.
You keep what you give away.
Oh wow.
I mean, if you think about it, like
as a literally, that's the gift of being a parent.
Yeah.
Right. That's unbelievable. That's profound. Right. Like if you don't get anything else out of this episode, right? That is it right there. That is it. That's extremely powerful. So, Ethan, you got a strong question for Miss Amberly in just a moment here. I knew he would. I knew he would. All right, so check it out. So, folks, hold on just a second. So, folks, check it out. Amberly has got the Unstoppable Success Summit in April of 2025. Everything's available on your website, amberlylago.com, right?
Yeah.
So they can pre-register and all that kind of stuff. They can pre-order your book.
They can, and if you pre-order it, you get all the bonuses.
All the bonuses, right? So
the free bonuses that I put my heart and soul into.
That's right. That's right. So, folks, everything's available at amberlylago.com. Make sure you're keeping up with Amberly and on Instagram at Amberly Lago Motivation, at the Amberly Lago Show, and at Unstoppable Life Mastermind, right? All on Instagram right there. And again, everything's available at amberlylago.com. So, all right, Ethan, you know the drill. I'm going to put this top on this water because I'll spill it. So, all right, so you're going to sneak over here. He's going to make an appearance, all right? So come on over here, E, and tell Miss Amberly your question.
Okay, so one of the hardest things in this world for some people is making a habit, or really just making a commitment. And how would you tell someone in this generation, like myself, how to make and keep one? Because some people they just can't keep it.
I think that's a great question, by the way. I think it's really important to actually, like, if you're going to make a commitment or a goal, to actually have something attainable. Like, for instance, when I was in the hospital bed, if I would have focused on running a marathon again, I'd probably still be in the hospital bed. I focused on, okay, I can stand up for literally seconds at a time, and I'm going to be committed every single day to standing up a little bit longer and a little bit longer, because my goal was to be able to use crutches long enough to walk down the hall on my crutches and use the bathroom so I didn't have to use a bedpan. So what I'm saying is, if I would have just focused on, I got to run a marathon, I'm like, it was not attainable. I had so much that I had to do before I got to that. But I think it's important who you're surrounding yourself with too. If you're hanging out with people who are making excuses or making bad choices, this is something I've told my daughter. When she was in elementary school, she kept getting in trouble. She's a good kid, and all of a sudden she's like, "Mom, she got sent to the principal's office." And she goes, "But Mom, I didn't do it." I said, "You didn't do it, but you were hanging around the kid who is doing it and getting in trouble. And before long, you will be doing those things." So I think it's really important to I like hanging out with people like you who are a lot smarter than me, very successful, have a beautiful studio. I walked in and I'm like, I want to set up like this. I'm going to revamp my studio.
That's
so
right.
I think it's, having that accountability, hanging around the right people, and making sure you're, have goals that are actually attainable.
That's right. That's right. What I heard right there mostly that stood out to me was, like, basically you're saying somebody's praying for something that you might be taking for granted. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because, like, again, one day you went from being able to do anything you wanted to as an athlete to the next day it's like, am I going to ever even be able to do those things again? Oh,
I was like, is my husband going to leave me? Is he going to love me?
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, he stood by my still. I mean, he loved my leg before I loved it.
Yeah.
He accepted it. And in fact, one day we'd gone on a date night, and I tried to wear these little strappy kind of sandals, and I'm always in boots because it's really, with my ankle being fused, and it's really I found one pair of boots, this one brand that I can wear, and I have like 20 pairs of these boots. And anyway, I'd tried to wear these cute little, I wanted to look sexy. And I got home and my ankle was like, just huge. The strap was cutting in, it was like, it looked like I had a grapefruit in my ankle. And I sat on the floor and I was like, oh, look at my leg. Yeah. It's all swollen. He said, yeah, look at your leg. It's a miracle.
That's right.
Just his perspective,
and
I think when you go through hard things, it can either pull you apart or bring you closer together. And I think it really brought us closer together.
No doubt. No doubt. So besides being unstoppable, like, and I want to look up I love talking to my good old buddy Webster for definitions, unstoppable definition here. So
I do too. And you know what else? I
love
like using like Chat GPT and asking questions.
Heck
It's
yeah,
fun.
dude. Heck yeah, man. It gives you a different perspective.
Yeah.
A different perspective, right? So check it out, folks. Unstoppable is an adjective, and it means impossible to stop or prevent, right? So, and at the end of the day, like, your perspective is going to make or break whether you're truly unstoppable or not. But if you're truly unstoppable, well, then you can't be stopped. You cannot be stopped, right? So, somebody told us one time, I think I heard it from the pulpit, I am are the two most powerful words in the English language, and whatever word you say after that. And because you're going to say it over and over and over again every time somebody greets you with how you doing. And in this town, that's the most, I probably get asked that question 1,500 times a year, if not more. How are you doing? Right? So it's 15 chances to convince myself and program myself that I am unstoppable. I freaking love it. So Amberly, aside from the book, February 11th, 2025, Joy Through the Journey, and the Unstoppable Success Summit in April 2025. Good Lord. April 2025. But you're also on stages at other people's events all the time, right? So best way to keep up with you if they want to come check you out or anything else is online on your website and on Instagram. Any final thoughts as we kind of bring this sucker to a close today you'd want to let everybody know?
Yeah, you know what? I love hearing from people and connecting. So reach out to me. Especially if there's something I could help you with. Reach out to me.
I love it.
And you can email. I'll give you my personal email, Amberly@AmberlyLago.com. That's really me emailing you back. So if I'm a little slow, it's because it's me emailing you back.
That's right. Well, at the same time, they might say, because it's kind of like, like I was talking about Tim Corbin, some people might say it took him 2 hours to email me back. No, it's perspective. That guy emailed me back in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about the perspective.
Yeah. And Brendan Burchard said something one time that stuck with me. He said, you teach people how to treat you, but you teach people how fast you're going to respond. And I'm like, oh, yeah. That's
right. That's right. And you said, again, it's, as a dad, when Ethan has something that's important to him, whether it be baseball, music, or whatever, he gets lessons. He goes and finds him a coach. If he's struggling in school or doing great in school, guess what? They usually get a tutor. They can go get further help to accelerate and stuff like that. And we'll do it for our kids, but it's hard for us as adults to do it for ourselves sometimes, right? So there's people listening right now as we bring this sucker to a close. They're thinking, I might buy that book. I probably will. I should go to that event, but here's all the reasons that I can't, right? Time, money, all the basic stuff, right? So speak to them right now, Amberly. Let's get them there.
One decision can change your life. And you know what? Sometimes you think you might be going to an event to see a certain speaker, and then you meet somebody that is in the audience or in the bathroom. And I think that's where all the deals are made, is in the back of the room.
That's right.
Or in the bathroom. That's when you really meet people. But I think just knowing that you have the ability to change your life with one relationship, with one, it may be one thing that you hear, and so, I would say get in the room and for sure spark more joy. Go out there, even if you don't buy the book. I want you to intentionally think about how can you go out there and do some joy spotting today, because if you do look for the good, if you do look for the joy, you will find more of it.
The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial.
When my wife and I learned when we would go to the events, it was just taking that first step and going, and then we leave, right? So it's again just like going to that church service. I got to make sure I'm hearing what God needs for me to hear today, and then I'm going to apply it. So we started setting goals for our time at the event, right? So how do we know that we went to the event and did a good job? How do we know that we were successful in the time that we spent to go to that sucker? You know, so it was like, well, we got to meet at least 5 people. We would set goals for ourselves while we were at the event that when we left, we knew time well spent, we did our job.
And you know what I'm going to do at this event too is I'm going to, after lunch, have people switch where they're seating and go sit by somebody completely different.
Love that.
You know, I mean, a lot of times people are like, oh, I was comfortable where I was sitting.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's how you meet people. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times people that know each other, they end up sitting beside each other. And it's like, no, you're there to make connections, make collaborations, to grow, to level up. And so, yeah.
That's right. You can't grow in comfort, can you?
Absolutely
not. So sometimes we got to help force it a little bit, don't we?
Yeah. Yep.
I love it. So, well, folks, big shout out to Amberly Lago, the Amberly Lago. I'm so happy and grateful you came to town to hang out with us today. I was a guest on your podcast, which is monstrous, top 1% in the world. The Amberly Lago Show, folks.
I know, wild.
You got to check it out. It's crazy, and like just the feedback I got from that, your audience is unbelievable. A lot of them reached out and gave me feedback because I always ask for it. I want to get better. Your show is incredible, and it's a true honor to have been on your show as a guest.
Thank you.
So-
Thanks for being. It was an honor to have you on, and it's such an honor to be at your studio here in Nashville.
Well, it likewise, it's an honor to have you in here. And again, folks, if you don't know, if I ever mention that my son's in the studio, as a dad, it's like these are people that like you really need to pay attention to because I brought him here for a reason. It ain't always just because he's good with a camera and stuff. It's because like, dude, I get to bring my kid in the room with Amberly Lago and get to hang out for 2 hours.
Oh,
It's priceless. It's absolutely priceless.
well, it's been awesome getting to talk with you, and thanks for taking pictures. And I even got to sign your wall.
That's right.
I mean, come on.
That's right. That's right. Well, girl, I know you got a busy schedule while you're here, so we're going to get you out of here. But thank you again so much. It's been an honor and pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Folks, we've been with the founder of the Unstoppable Life Mastermind, host of the Amberly Lago Show, international speaker, TEDx speaker, founder of the Unstoppable Success Summit happening in April 2025, and the 2-time author. Her new book, Joy Through the Journey, comes out February 11th, 2025. The Unstoppable Amberly Lago, right? So check her out on amberlylago.com. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.